Today we are going to cover a student of Socrates, that is Plato. In fact, it is from Plato we get to know important aspects of Socratic philosophy. But Plato did not confine to what Socrates said. Plato gave some details to Socratic philosophy. And then second thing he did was he extended the philosophy to the working of the state. So these are the two aspects. Number one, details. Number two, extension to state. Extension to state. What are the details he gave? We know that Socrates said one should examine oneself and one should be knowledgeable about oneself. Plato gave some kind of results to that. Plato said that if we examine, we get to know that there are three aspects to ourselves: physical aspect, psychological aspect, and reason. Reason. Physical, psychological, reason. He called it tripartite soul. Soul having three parts. We can take soul to mean self or person. We don't have to give any religious meaning to the word soul. This physical part is given name body appetite, and psychological part spirit. And this is reason. So any individual has these three parts. Every soul has these three parts. But then, which dominates an individual? Which component dominates an individual? Varies. In some, body appetite may dominate. In some, spirit may dominate. In some, reason may dominate. Plato thought that one should find out what is dominant in oneself. And based on that, they should take up right occupation. So that is to say that one has to understand one's soul and express it in the work. So it is this kind of knowledge that one should have. So anyway, he is filling up the details. And Plato did not say that all are equally important in everybody. But one dominates and one should pursue more importance to it, but one should also satisfy other things. So that's how three parts should have harmony, and out of that harmony comes happiness, and we know from Socratic position that harmony, happiness and virtue all one. So Plato thought of the parts, understanding oneself and expressing it. So that leads to harmony of the soul. He called it justice of soul. When the soul is just, when there is harmony, then it will lead to virtue. Will lead to virtue. Unjust souls result in unvirtuous behavior. So, in conclusion, we can say that Plato gave the details to the idea that one has to understand oneself. Plato gave the conclusions of such an understanding. But Plato didn't confine to that. He said the idea of harmony and justice can be extended to state. A state, he said, or a city is a man writ large against the sky. A city or a city state is a man writ large against the sky. It means man multiplied. That is to say, the dynamics of happiness within a soul are true or valid to the dynamics of happiness of the city. If the soul can be just in one particular way, the city or a state can also be just in a particular way, in the same way. So it means a city should have harmony. What is harmony? Harmony across parts. What are the parts? He thought of three classes. Guardians, military, and producers. So there should be three classes within a city. Above that, rulers. And there should be harmonious relationship across these classes. And how should people be recruited to these classes? The nature of man and the nature of the class to which they are going to belong should match. That is another aspect of harmony. Body oriented body appetite oriented. Should go to producers class. Spirit, military, reason, godliness. This is nature of man. These are the classes. Within a man there should be harmony. And that harmony within a man is possible when one is in a proper class. And there should be a harmony among the classes. And harmony leads to justice of soul. And harmony here leads to justice of state. Do you know the title of the book he wrote was The Republic? And you know the Republic means justice, not the current meaning that the highest person is elected. So a proper arrangement leads to justice, just like proper arrangement here leads to justice of soul. So what he thought was harmony within an individual works valid as harmony within a state. And one more thing we need to understand is that Plato gave three components, but to Plato, all of them are not equivalent. Some are placed above. For example, reason. The spirit next, body of text next. So he gave importance to reason. And importance to reason, you can see the Socrates influence. So that is why reason dominant people are placed in guardians. Spirit dominant military. Spirit refers to courage, aggression, loyalty, honor, things like that. That's why they are placed in military. So Plato gave importance to reason dominance. That is why they are above military and producers class. So all three are not equivalents. Reason is dominant. That is the essence of being human. And so reason dominant people are guardians. It is the highest class. It is a class above military and producers class. So that is how individuals are in harmony. Individuals are rightly matched to classes, and classes are in harmony. Individuals are happy, and there is harmony, and a city-state is happy. So that is how Plato thought of harmony as justice, and justice as happiness. That's what he thought. Now let us focus on the so-called reason dominance. Plato gave highest priority to reason, and he thought a person will have more of reason because of two reasons. Number one, inherited. Number two, socialized. Both inherited and acquired. So people should be socialized into better use of rational faculty. So that's not a controversial proposal. But Plato said that this reason dominance is partly inherited. Probably that also is not so much controversial. There may be some inheritance component. But Plato said something more. He said because inherited component is there, and also because he thought the state should have more of reason dominant people. And he wanted to manipulate reproduction of reason dominance. And you know what he thought of? He thought of a state where people of guardian class will not have freedom in sex, no freedom in sex. And then they have no family and no property. Guardians will not have family, will not have property, and they will not even have freedom in choosing a sexual partner. The rulers will arrange a reason-dominant male with a reason-dominant female so that reason-dominant children will be born. And according to Plato, if children are inferior, so inferior, if they are particularly inferior, they can be left to die. It seems that used to be the practice those days. So what we now call eugenics was what Plato believed in. So rulers are controlling mating, and the guardians are not to have family, not to have property. It means there are mechanisms by which the genetic component itself was going to be improved towards reason dominance. Okay. And of course, all this manipulation is in the interest of the society, interest of the state. And the rulers, he said, anyway, he also gave a concept of philosopher king. The philosopher king is the highest person, and under him all this manipulation goes on. What is meant by philosopher king? Plato thought either philosophers should be kings or kings should be philosophers. The people who have truth should have power. So truth and power should be matched. And what is truth? Understanding of dialectical method, self-knowledge. And the person also has power, and he manipulates all these things. But he is not manipulating for his interest, he is manipulating for the interest of the state. The so-called guardians are not the people who have so much of power according to Plato, but the people who are leaving many of personal comforts to help the state using their reason. But why should they be willing to forego those comforts? Because they enjoy application of reason. So, Plato thought reason is very important. The highest truth by philosopher king, guardians reason dominant, and inferior children checked out or left to die. Sex controlled, mating controlled. So, what modern political scientists would call a totalitarian state was what Plato conceived of. Okay. So, people working for others where truth and power matched. So, Plato thought of a hugely manipulative state. Present political scientists believe that what Plato visualized is a ruthless state, and if one follows the prescription of the Republic, it will not lead to just state. It would be very unjust state. But then why did Plato conceive of something like that? Because he thought justice lies in the fitness. Man pursuing his dominance, which component is dominant, and fitting individual with the class, and the classes harmonious. But what he didn't see is that if there is a harmony, naturally that may be good. But if one is forcing this through elaborate manipulation, that would lead to an unjust state. So Plato didn't think of that. Plato thought that the harmony itself is the source of happiness, but harmony forced in this way won't be. But of course, we also need to see whether that was a harmony in the first place. Okay. So Plato has the conception that reason is important, truth is important, and truth can be achieved through reasoning power. And those who are capable of highest reasoning and highest truth should have the ability to control the rest. Okay. Many of these elements his student Aristotle would one day reject. Okay. But why should a philosopher king be given so much of ability or power to manipulate others? Plato has a conception of truth which is also debated. He thought some people know the truth and they know how to rule others or how to run the state affairs. And many others may not have conception of the truth. So in his famous of cave, allegory of cave, he says, say 4 prisoners are tied in a cave. They can't move their heads, move their hands. They just have to only see the wall. And behind them there is a fire. And between fire and the prisoners, people are walking. Animals are moving. So prisoners see the shade or various kinds of shades of the people and the animals on the wall. But the prisoners can't see how the shades are formed or what is fire, and they don't have a full picture. And Plato says now that one of the prisoners is released and he goes out and finds out truth. He comes back and then wants to tell his former friends that this is the nature of truth. These shadows are coming from the people, from the animals, because there is a fire behind them. But the prisoners can't understand what their former friend was saying, and in fact, they can't even recognize the former friend because they are only seeing his shadow. So Plato wants to say that if one has realized truth and if one wants to communicate to others, others may not have any clue to what the truth is all about. So others are not in a position to judge the one who knows the truth, because others are not in a position to understand in the first place. So Philosopher King is the one who went out and saw the truth, and others may never know what the truth is. So the person who has such truth, which is not understood by others, which may not be understood by others, should also have power. Whereas in democracy, it doesn't work out like that. In democracy, people elect a ruler. And so in the election, the ignorance of the people is reflected. So Plato was very critical of democracy. In democracy, what matters is ignorance of majority. Whereas in the system that he was visualizing, truth, this should give power. Truth should give power, not the majority opinion. And we know his teacher, Socrates, was put to death by democracy, by the ignorance of the majority, who never understood what Socrates was referring to. Socrates was wise, but the people who judged him to death had no clue to what the wisdom that Socrates represented. So a better political system is that truth and power match. In a democracy, it doesn't. Of course, to Plato, truth is a matter of application of reason, dialectical method, Socratic method, self-examination. So coming to the totalitarianism, Plato could think of totalitarian state because he thought rulers know that truth that the others may have no clue to. That gives them the legitimacy to manipulate. That gives them the legitimacy to run the state as they think fit. So that may be a foundation to the totalitarian state, as modern political scientists think. But Plato thought the rulers were working in the interests of the people and for the realization of justice. So, to sum up Plato, 1. Harmony of soul is important, and a similar process should be adopted to lead to harmony of city. Matter of relationship across parts, matter of relationship across parts. And the people and the parts should be matched. Give importance to reason, truth, and power should be matched with truth. And the power should be used to promote reason dominance in the society over generations. And if such a thing, if such a pursuit of harmony, we know now, leads to totalitarian state, which Plato did not really realize. So, we can say what Plato thought would bring justice to the society, I think it doesn't bring justice to the society. And in all these things, you see how much Plato deviated from Socrates. Socrates said he was probably the wisest because he knew that he didn't know. But Plato didn't have such a humility. Plato had grand plans, so sure of his plans that he thought of systems by which people are controlled. So definitely not knowing position of Socrates too, I know. And I can force. It's movement much away from uncertainty to certainty. So Plato was definitely not living up to Socrates' skepticism.